Deion Sanders and the CU Buffaloes, they're 0-1 after the first week in college football. And now I have to ask this question. Is the shine starting to wear off on Prime? I'll answer it coming up next. All right, Buffs fans, Buffs Nation, let's talk about this. After week one and a 27-20 loss to the Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets, are we starting to see that Deion isn't the end-all, be-all up in Boulder? Is the shine wearing off? I told you I'm going to answer it. I'm going to answer it. Look, for me, it is a little bit. Now, he can earn more of that shine, and he's got 3 consecutive winnable games where he certainly can earn some of that shine. But first and foremost, the not taking timeouts against the Yellow Jackets back on Friday night in the fourth quarter. We did the math on the radio side of this thing. It was about 40 seconds that he wasted between first down and then ultimately what was a 3rd and 1 where they converted. About 40 seconds were wasted. And then Deion Sanders has the audacity to sit up there at his press conference and tell the world that we're wrong and he was right. Talking about, well, did you see the guys get out of bounds? Did you see the times that we had in between the plays? And then, yeah, I did. And we actually went back and did the math, and it was 39 seconds that you wasted by not taking timeouts. Huge mistake in the first place doing it. And then in the postgame press conference where, look, you should be a little bit graceful with what players and coaches are in postgame press conferences. It's literally 20 minutes or less right after the game has ended. There's some emotion to it. People are still in their feelings about what did or did not happen. But he gets up on that podium, and like I said, he tells everybody in that room, he tells all of you out there that we're watching, he tells all of us in the media, and we don't matter that much, but collectively, us together, he's telling us we're all wrong, and we saw it wrong. He saw it right. Then on Monday, he doubles down. And he says one more time, multiple times in the next press conference, that he still thinks that they did the right thing, that clock management was all right. Then he goes to defend Pat Shurmur. I think some of that shine is starting to wear off on Deion Sanders. Now, look, am I grateful for the fact that he's the coach at Colorado? Hell yeah, I am. And I'd be stupid to say otherwise. Because you know what the Buffaloes were before Deion? The worst thing you could be in sports. Irrelevant. Didn't matter. The laughing stock of the entire college football world. CBS Sports does this thing called the bottom 25 in college football. It's fun. You know, they're looking at the really, really bad teams. Well, it's fun until back in 2022, it was CU and it was CSU that were the top worst teams in college football throughout the entire season. So Prime did bring the Buffaloes back to relevance. But are we just cool with that? Are we going to do like what the Buffaloes basketball team is with Tad Boyle? Tad Boyle's a good coach compared to what they were before Tad got there. Now it's probably time to pull the plug on Tad because he's got to where they can go. You want that same thing to be with Deion and the Buffaloes? I don't. I want them to have the most success they can possibly have. But with the hard-headedness and the stubbornness coming out of Prime's mouth over the last 4 or 5 days, I'm not sure they can obtain that. And then the fact that you're going to defend Pat Shurmur? What are we doing here? You not only do you defend Pat Shurmur, you actually threw your defensive coordinator, Robert Livingston, under the bus to do so. His press conference this week, he said, I love that everybody wants to start the press conference asking me about Pat Shurmur when we gave up 300 and more rushing yards. So you literally throw a dude on the ground who's probably your best asset on the staff to cover up for a dude that couldn't cut it in the NFL? What are you doing, Deion? What kind of message are you sending to the rest of the coaches? I just don't understand that. And you know what I think would make Deion Sanders human, maybe for the first time ever? That's the part we don't get. There's some humanization that needs to be in sports. I get it. The football players wear a helmet and they run into each other really fast. Who cares about what happens to those guys? I understand that. I believe that at sometimes. But the fact that Deion couldn't say, imagine this, okay? They lose to Georgia Tech. He gets up there in his press conference and he says, man, we have to capitalize on those 3 turnovers. When we get a team to turn the ball over 3 times, hell, in a game, they did it in a quarter. We have to turn that into 3 turnovers needs to be a minimum of like 13 points. We're talking a touchdown and 2 field goals minimum if you're the real deal. And the Buffaloes turn that into 7. So Deion should go up there and say, we got to turn multiple turnovers into multiple scores. we have to be better establishing some sort of identity early on the offensive side. We can't give up 320 yards rushing. And I'm going to learn from all this. And then also say, I can't go into the locker room with 2 timeouts in my pocket. And I'm going to learn from this. I made a mistake as a coach. I let my staff down. I let my players down. He looks right at the camera and says, I let you guys down as a fan base. And I'm going to be better because of this. Tough night this evening, but I'm going to learn a hard lesson. I'm going to go home and look at myself in the mirror, and I won't make that same mistake twice. How great would we have all felt had Deion said that? Instead, he tells us we're wrong and the media's stupid and we're idiots and we don't get it. We just want to write the stories to attack Deion Sanders, right? That's not how it works, dude. You made a mistake. This is what, and again, it's a deeper conversation, but the way media is going with everybody having a blog and a podcast, consumers of the product think that criticism or critical thinking is negative. And it's not. I'm giving my opinion. Deion failed on Friday night. He got an F as a head coach because of the last 3-4 minutes of that football game. He got an F. And if he coaches his ass off and Pat Shurmur looks great and they blow out the Blue Hens coming up this weekend, which they should do, I'll get on this podcast. I'll get down the hall in my radio station or the radio studio, and I'll give Deion and Pat and all the guys a bunch of credit. But on Friday night, they looked JV. Deion Sanders did not look like he was even a college-level coach taking those 2 timeouts with him into the locker room. It was pathetic, Prime. And the fact that you can't admit your mistakes, it makes me question who you are as a man. And I'm being honest about that. All right, another question that comes out of that is Caden Salter. How do we feel about Caden Salter? Are you already ready to pull the plug on a dude like Caden Salter? Now, I'm not. I know Julian Lewis is the future here. And I would say this, like, overall of my football development philosophy, right? If you have a young player, especially a young quarterback, that needs live reps to get ready for his time, and you have 0 chance of winning a championship, plug him in, get it going. Let that dude play. Get the lumps, bumps, and bruises in real time and figure out who he is. Now, they didn't do that because they paid Caden Salter $600,000. They brought him over to be this mentor type for Julian Lewis. So I don't know that I'm ready to pull the plug right now. What does that do for Caden's confidence? What if Julian struggles? You're going to go back to Caden? And how is he going to feel about where he is in your mind at that moment? So I'm not saying this is Caden's job for the entire 12-week season, but I'm saying I think to pull him right now would be a little foolish. You have Delaware, you have Houston, and you have Wyoming coming up. You're going to kick the crap out of Delaware. You should kick the crap out of Wyoming. You should win against Houston. I think it'll be a little tight than the before and the latter game there. But think about what it could be in 3 weeks from right now. We could be sitting here talking about the Buffs being 3-1 and Caden Salter's balling out in those 3 games with small doses of Julian Lewis, and you get a glimpse of what the kid's going to look like. If the Buffaloes have any hopes of going to a meaningful bowl game, because they're not winning the championship, they're not going to the Big 12 championship, and they're never going to be a top 25 team this year. But if you want to have some success outside of that, you can't pull the plug right now on Caden Salters. If you want to win 6, 7, 8 games and get to some sort of bowl game, I think pulling the plug on Caden right now would hurt those chances. So he's not the all year locked in, write it down and pin starter, but I'm not benching him right now. I don't know if you would. Tell me in the comments and I'll come back and circle and see where you are. Robert Livingston's defense that I mentioned as well. Now, are they going to give up 320 rushing yards every single week? I doubt that. Georgia Tech, that's what they do. When we talked all week about Haynes King and Jamal Haynes, the quarterback-running back combo that dominated the Buffalo's defense. I do not think they'll get just stomped on running the football, but I still think it's an issue as it was a year ago. So Robert, everybody was really high on Robert Livingston and what that defense can be and where he can go as a coach after this year. I think there's still some work and proving to do on your behalf, Robert. And the other thing I want you to answer here in the comment section, if you have the time. We'd love to interact with you. Tell me what your prediction was before the season and now what it is after they lost the first game to Georgia Tech. I had them at 6-6. Like I said, I think it's a bit of a down year. Now you go to a bowl game, but it's probably some crappy who cares bowl game with 6 wins. I think they're still a 6-win football team. I think they have a really good shot at getting to 3-1 here over the next few weeks. But then you get deep into the heart of that Big 12 schedule, and I don't think they can compete with the top dogs in the Big 12. I'd love to be wrong. Again, I can be critical and eat my words. You know what I am before this and a host and all that stuff? I'm a freaking fan of Colorado sports. I like the Buffs. Still got that Buff starters jacket. I like the Broncos. I want them to win. I freaking love the Nuggets. I want all these teams to win. But when they do something wrong, they need to be held accountable. And I think it's time that we all start doing that for Deion Sanders. That's where I'm at with the Colorado Buffaloes. Like I said, while you're here, like, subscribe, comment. I'd love to know how you're feeling about these Buffaloes as we get ready for week number 2. Shout out to my man Dan Chavez making this thing look so dang good. We will talk to you next week. This has been Dover on Denver. And now I'm done.